I don't think beltless training is worth doing when a lifter needs to improve their bracing. And yeah, some lifters can do great with beltless training, and if that's you, don't go straight to the comment section to tell me I'm an idiot. Keep watching because we are going to make your brace stronger than it already is. I'm not saying that beltless training doesn't work or that it doesn't make you stronger. I am saying that I've got a better way to look at things. Because if you're watching this, your brace probably sucks. Everyone is telling you to train beltless, but when you put that belt back on, your brace still isn't where it needs to be. That's okay, because today we are going to talk about the better solution that I use with every single lifter on Team Activated to make a rock solid brace. And the team is free for the first week, so sign up, post your training, and no matter what you're stuck on, I will give you same-day individualized coaching that you need to get better. Anyways, first, we've got to talk about why the stuff that everyone loves to talk about isn't the best solution for bracing issues. So why do I think beltless training isn't really worth doing? Well, there are two sides to this: the skill component of bracing and the way the dorsal musculature is challenged through a beltless squat or deadlift. On the skill side, think about how you'd brace for a big beltless squat. Most lifters are going to contract the dorsal musculature, then breathe low to ramp up the tension, which works great beltless. It's an important skill to have, but it's not the same skill that's going to allow you to get 50, 100, or even more pounds out of putting a belt on. Why? To get pounds out of a belt, we need that belt to add to the tension we are already creating. Beltless, we're relying on compressing in to create that tension. If we compress like we were beltless with a belt, well, we're just sucking in away from the belt, which leads to the problem a lot of lifters who train beltless have. Because they don't know how to contract into the belt well, they just clamp that sucker down as tight as possible and rely on the belt to create tension for them. That's not what we want, because if the belt is too tight, you're not going to be able to contract your dorsal musculature to the same degree that you would without your belt on. I'm looking at you, guy whose belt looks like a boa constrictor squeezing him to death on every single squat that he takes. And sure, the belt mashing your organs is creating tension, but you can create way more with a few little tweaks. So what's the big difference between bracing strategy with a belt and without? Well, the fact that we have a belt on. And to repeat myself, we don't want to use the belt to just strangle us into passive tension. We need to use the belt in a way that allows us to contract our dorsal musculature harder than we could without it. That all starts with finding the right level of belt tightness. Too tight, you're not going to be able to contract hard enough to create the perfect brace. Too loose, and you're going to be ballooning out like a 90s multiply lifter, and if you contract, you're going to lose the tension pushing out into the belt. The Goldilocks zone of belt tightness is going to be just tight enough that if you're standing relaxed and take a breath, you're going to feel that belt tension start to ramp up. Then your job is to take your air into the belt, pull it low, and try to expand 360 degrees to find the belt around your entire torso. Where the belt is, you're going to be limited in how far you can expand because of the belt. Above and below the belt, you're going to be pushing out around it. Then we contract. That spill out above and below the belt, the contraction is going to pull it in, which is going to expand our torso directly underneath the belt outwards. The harder we contract, the harder we'll be able to then drive out into the belt, and the more tension that we can create. Your goal is to contract as hard as you can and find as much belt tension as possible. So the key to making the belt work is we need to expand before we contract. Without that expansion, we're not going to be able to actively contract into more pressure. If you brace the same way you would beltless, the belt ain't going to be helping you much. And even if you do expand first on your beltless brace, the feel is going to be different. The sensations we want will be different. It's not going to be the best practice for a big belted lift on the platform. Not to mention, the training you're going to be getting while lifting beltless isn't going to be the best way to build bracing strength. First off, if we're using the belt in a way that allows us to create more tension, the belt is allowing us to contract harder than we would without it. More tension equals more better brace training. Second, when we are training beltless, what kind of contraction is happening? An isometric. And yes, isometrics can be very good at building strength at specific muscle lengths and joint angles, but if we're bracing with the belt well, we are already getting that strong isometric contraction. But that's not the whole picture, because isometrics are missing something: a concentric and an eccentric. What's going to raise your threshold to contract isometrically and add to the work that you're doing by bracing well with a belt on? Training your abs and torso with a concentric and eccentric motion. Training the torso directly outside of squats and deadlifts with a concentric and eccentric is exactly how I get all of my lifters to build the strength necessary to create a rock solid brace. What does that look like? We train the abdominals every training day. Sit-up variations are important and we're going to hit them hard, but we're also going to want to touch rotation, lateral bending to complete the picture. That means we're running loaded sit-up variations usually 2 times per week. The key to making these work is making sure that we are treating the sit-ups the same way that we are treating our brace. That means at the bottom of the motion, we are squeezing our glutes for full hip extension. Then we're going to inhale and expand slightly. Then we curl our ribcage towards our pelvis around that expansion. The stronger you get at it here, the stronger and better you will be at pulling yourself into that brace. For lateral bending, side bends, preferably on a Smith machine so we can lever against the machine and load that sucker up. With these, make sure the hips are fully extended so we're not cheating away from the side bend with hip flexion. From there, we let the weight pull you down and then pull yourself back up to the top. Not just to neutral, keep pulling until you're packed down on the other side. And yeah, you can do this with a dumbbell, but it's just that with the Smith, you'll be able to push them harder. For rotation, I freaking love this rotation machine. I love this thing so much. But most people don't have one of these. So set up a cable at shoulder height, take a wide stance, and grab that cable like you were setting up for a pull-off press. Then instead of just doing the pull-off, let the cable pull you back towards the tower, then rotate away against that loading. And if you don't have a cable station, this can also be done by choking a band on a power rack. Now, for the backside. It's simple. We just run movements where we're pulling ourselves out of a controlled amount of spinal flexion. This could look like a round back good morning, beltless, a round back stiff leg, beltless, or a row where we're rounding and extending as we pull. The reason I'm okay with running those movements beltless is the goal with those movements is to challenge the torso, not to max out weight on the bar. And all of that is going to build your ability to contract the musculature that will lead to a stronger isometric hold during your brace. And then bracing with your belt will be letting you train your ability to create that isometric harder. Sets and reps? Y'all know I hate this question because it's missing the point, but we want to work hard. So if we're working hard enough, doing much more than 2 sets ain't gonna help us a ton. For rep ranges, these movements, sure, you could do a 3-rep max, but you're gonna fail because of the movement, not because you maxed out on mechanical tension. So the usual recommendation is 2 sets of 10 to 20 reps pushed hard. And that's it. Learn to brace into your belt, train your abs outside of squatting and deadlifting, your brace will get stronger and better. See you guys in the team.